She came back to sell her mother's house. The realtor was the last person she'd spoken to the night she left.
The town looks smaller every time I come back, which is the thing people always say about going home, and which I always assumed was a cliche until I turned off the highway onto Route 9 and felt, with complete physical certainty, that the trees on either side of the road were closer together than they used to be, that the sky above them was lower, that everything that had once felt enormous, the grain elevator, the water tower, the big Presbyterian church on the corner of Elm, had been quietly scaled down in my absence to something more manageable. I had been coming back twice a year since my mother's diagnosis. Christmas and August, regular as rent, flying into the regional airport 2 hours away and renting the same category of beige sedan and driving the same 40 minutes into town. And each time, the approach had felt slightly smaller, slightly more like a stage set for something that had already closed. And each time I had told myself that this was just what happened with distance, that home shrinks when you leave and you see it for what it was rather than what it felt like when you were inside it. This time was different from the twice-a-year visits. This time, my mother was gone, and the house on Mercer Street was mine. And I was here not to visit, but to sell, which is a different thing entirely. A visit allows you to stay at the surface of a place. Selling requires you to go through every room and decide what it was worth. I wasn't looking forward to deciding what it was worth. My mother had been organized, which was one of the things about her that had always made me feel both grateful and slightly inadequate. She had left everything in order: the will, the accounts, the contact details for the lawyer, and, in a small envelope on the kitchen table, which her neighbour Mrs. Paulson had left for me to find, a handwritten list of people to call: the plumber, the electrician, and, at the bottom, in her careful print, Tom Whitfield, Whitfield Realty. He knows the house. He'll be fair. I stood in my mother's kitchen and looked at that name for a long moment. Tom Whitfield. Of course. My mother had always liked Tom. She had always maintained, with the gentle persistence of a woman who believed in things working out, that what happened between us was a misunderstanding, and that misunderstandings resolved themselves given sufficient time, and that sufficient time had surely by now elapsed. She had said some version of this to me at least 4 times over the past 8 years. She had not, apparently, considered that telling me to call Tom Whitfield to sell her house might be her final word on the subject. I put the envelope down. I made tea. I stood at the kitchen window and looked at the backyard, which was still and brown in the November afternoon, and thought about what it would mean to call Tom Whitfield, and what it would mean not to, and whether there was another realtor in Millhaven whose involvement would be less complicated and who my mother would not have specifically, from beyond the kitchen table, asked me not to use. There were, I knew, 2 other realty offices in town. I had driven past them on the way in. I could call one of them. There was no obligation. I called Tom Whitfield. He answered on the second ring, which told me he still picked up for numbers he didn't recognize, which was something I remembered about him. The way he always assumed the unknown call was something worth answering, the specific optimism of that, the way it was so entirely unlike me. Whitfield Realty, he said. Tom. I stopped. There was a particular quality to the silence that followed. Not the silence of someone who doesn't know who's calling, but the silence of someone who does and is deciding what to do with that information. It's Claire, Alderman, my mother. I know, he said. I heard. I'm sorry, Claire. I'm very sorry. His voice was the same. That was the first thing I noticed, and then felt slightly foolish for noticing. 8 years, his voice was exactly the same. Thank you, I said. I'm in town. I'm going to need to sell the house. She left your name. She mentioned she might, he said, which meant my mother had told him. Of course she had. Can I come by tomorrow morning? Take a look, talk through what you're thinking? Tomorrow morning is fine. 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock. I hung up and stood in the kitchen for a while. Then I went upstairs and made up the bed in my old room and lay in it looking at the ceiling, which still had the faint outline of where I'd stuck glow-in-the-dark stars at 14 and peeled them off at 17, and thought about Tom Whitfield's voice being the same, and what it meant that the first thing I'd noticed was that, and fell asleep eventually in the way you fall asleep in a house that is full of someone else's absence. Tom Whitfield had been my best friend for 11 years before he was anything else, and for 6 months after that before he became the person I didn't call when I left. That's the correct order of things, and I want to be precise about it because the order matters. We met at 9 in the 3rd grade when he sat next to me on the bus and asked if I wanted half his sandwich because he'd seen me drop mine, which was the kind of thing Tom did without thinking about it and without expecting anything back, and which I had recognized immediately at 9 as something unusual. We were inseparable for 11 years. Through middle school and the particular social cruelties of it, through high school and the way it reorganized everyone into new hierarchies, through the summer after senior year when everything started changing and we both pretended not to notice. What I remember most about those 11 years is not the big moments, not the night of junior prom, not graduation, not the summer afternoons at the lake. What I remember is the ordinary texture of it. The way he always knew when something was wrong before I said anything and would just adjust, make room, not ask, not push, just move slightly to accommodate whatever I was carrying. The way we could be in complete silence for an hour and it was never uncomfortable, never the kind of silence that needs filling. The way he was the first person I called when anything happened, good, bad, confusing. Not because I'd decided to call him first, but because he was simply the person my hands dialed. You don't always know what you have when you have it. I knew on some level. I was not unaware of what we were to each other. But knowing and acting on knowing are two different things, and for 11 years, I knew without doing anything about it. Because it was good the way it was, and change requires courage, and I was, in this specific area, not particularly courageous. The 6 months started at the end of that summer, at a party at Amy Kowalski's house, when Tom said something that I have thought about many times since in the way you think about things that were said simply and turned out to be more important than either person understood at the time. He said, "I think I've been in love with you for about 3 years, and I figured I should say it before you leave for school." I said, "Tom." He said, "You don't have to say anything. I just wanted it to not be unsaid." And I didn't say anything, and it wasn't unsaid. And for the 6 months between that party and the night I left Millhaven, we were something that didn't have a name yet. Not dating, not the same as before. Something suspended and careful and warmer than it should have been, given that I was leaving and we both knew it, and that I had never said out loud what I felt, and that Tom was Tom, which meant he had said exactly what he felt and had not asked for anything in return. I left in February, a job offer earlier than I'd expected in a city 500 miles away. I had 48 hours to decide. I decided in 36, and in the remaining 12, I packed and said goodbye to my mother and drove to Tom's house with the intention of saying something real, something that was the right size for what was happening. I sat in my car outside his house for 20 minutes. The lights were on upstairs. I knew which window was his. I sat in the car and looked at the window and thought about going to the door, and about what would happen if I did, and about the job, and about the city, and about the specific cowardice of the person who knows what they should do and finds at the moment of doing it that they cannot. I drove to the highway. I sent a text from the gas station. "Got a job. Leaving tonight. I'll call you when I get there." I didn't call. I told myself I would, for about 3 months. Then I told myself it had been too long. Then I stopped telling myself anything about it and just didn't. And the years did what years do. He rang the bell at 9 exactly, which was also something I remembered. Tom's specific punctuality, which was never about being early and never about being late, but about arriving at the moment he said he would, as though the time he'd said was a small promise he intended to keep. I opened the door. He was taller, somehow, or I'd remembered him differently. He was wearing a jacket and carrying a folder and looking at me with the expression of someone who has had overnight to prepare for this and has prepared thoroughly. Composed, professional, warm in a way that was genuine but measured. "Claire," he said. "Tom." We stood in the doorway for a moment. 8 years and we were back to 2 words each, which seemed both inadequate and, somehow, right for the threshold. "Come in," I said. He came in. He looked around the hallway, the hooks still in the same place, my mother's mirror, the particular wallpaper she'd never replaced, with the expression of someone who knew this house. Which he did. He'd been in it hundreds of times. My mother had clearly kept that connection going after I'd let everything else lapse, and I felt a small, complicated thing about that, which I set aside for later. "The market's reasonable right now," he said, in the kitchen, setting his folder on the table. Professional, efficient. The folder was a small mercy. It gave us both something to look at. "Houses on Mercer have been moving in 6 to 8 weeks. Your mother kept it well. We shouldn't have any issues." "Good. I'll need to walk through, take some notes, get a sense of what we're working with. Do you want to come, or would you rather I'll come." We walked through the house together. He was good at this. I hadn't known he'd gone into real estate, hadn't known much about what his life had become, and I found myself watching him work with the specific curiosity of encountering someone you knew well in a context that is new. He was thorough. He noticed things. He said in the upstairs bathroom that the tile was original and in good condition and that buyers responded well to original details that had been maintained, and he ran his hand along the edge of the vanity the way someone does when they're actually looking. And I thought, he learned to do this. He built something here, in the town I left, while I was building something somewhere else. "The bedroom at the end," he said, in the hallway. "That was yours?" "Yes." He stopped at the doorway but didn't go in, looked at it from the threshold. "Your mother kept it as a guest room, but the bookshelf is still there." I looked. It was. The same white shelf, slightly crooked on the left side because I'd put it up myself at 16 and not quite leveled it correctly. The books were different, my mother's, but the shelf was mine. "She never quite got around to replacing it," I said. "Maybe she didn't want to." I didn't say anything to that. We went back downstairs. In the kitchen, over coffee that I made because it seemed necessary, and because making coffee gave me something to do with my hands, we talked about the listing. Price, timeline, what needed doing before it went on the market. The bathroom faucet that dripped, the fence panel at the back that needed replacing, a question about the boiler that he said he could arrange someone to look at if I wanted. He was thorough and clear and didn't push me on anything, and by the end of it, I had a sense of the process and what it would require, and the professional part of the conversation was over. We both knew the professional part of the conversation was over. He didn't reach for his jacket. I didn't refill the coffee and offer him some. We just sat at the kitchen table with our mugs, the way we had sat at this table 100 times, 20 years ago, doing homework or waiting for my mother to finish dinner, or just being in the same place because that was what we did. He wrapped both hands around his mug, looked at the table. "I was sorry to hear about your mother," he said again, and this time it was different from the phone, less prepared, more actual. "She was good to me. After you, she stayed in touch. I don't know if you knew that." "I didn't," I said. "I mean, I suspected. She mentioned you sometimes." "She talked about you," he said. "A lot, actually. She was proud of you. She kept a list of things you'd done on the fridge for a while, professional things, projects." I felt something press against the inside of my chest at that. My mother's fridge with a list of my accomplishments on it, in a house I visited twice a year. Tom Whitfield knowing about the list. Tom Whitfield sitting in this kitchen, reading my mother's fridge in the years I wasn't here to read it myself. I didn't know she did that, I said. She was your biggest advocate. I know. She never said anything against you, he added carefully, if you're wondering, about any of it. She never said anything that wasn't kind. That somehow was the harder thing to hear. Not that she'd been angry, which I could have understood, that she'd been kind, that she'd stayed kind about me to the person I'd hurt by leaving. Tom, I said, I want to say something that I should have said 8 years ago and didn't, and I know it's late, and I understand if you'd rather just handle the listing professionally and leave it at that. But I don't want to be in this kitchen for the next 6 weeks and not say it. He looked at me, not with the guarded look of someone bracing for something, but openly, the same way he'd always looked at things, straight on without the instinct to flinch. I left without saying what I should have said, I said. I owed you a conversation and I didn't have it. And I told myself a lot of things about why over the years, and none of them were really good enough. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry it happened that way. He was quiet for long enough that I thought he might choose the professional option. Thank you. Let's keep it to the listing. I understand. Tom was polite enough and measured enough that he could have done it cleanly. Can I ask you something? He said. Yes. Did you know, when you left, what it was? I understood what he was asking. Did I know, when I drove away at 2 a.m. with a text sent from a gas station, that I was ending something? Or did I tell myself it was just a pause, a temporary thing, that I'd call and it would sort itself? Yes, I said. I knew. Okay, he said. And then, after a moment, thank you for that. The not knowing was the part that was hard. I could have been angry at a decision. I couldn't do much with not knowing whether it was one. It was, I said. It was a decision, and I made it badly, and I'm sorry. He nodded slowly, looked at his coffee. I'm not angry, he said. I want you to know that. I was, for a while, but I'm not now. I think I'm just glad you said it, finally. It should have been 8 years ago. Yes, he said simply, it should have. But it's now, and now is what we've got. I felt something release that I hadn't known I was holding. The next 6 weeks were the strangest professional arrangement I have ever been party to. Tom listed the house on a Monday. By Wednesday, there were 4 inquiries. By the following Tuesday, 3 showings scheduled. He handled all of it with the same efficiency he brought to the walkthrough. Thorough, organized, good with people in the specific way of someone who has spent years learning to read what a person actually wants rather than what they say they want. I watched him do a showing once, from the kitchen doorway while he walked a young couple through the sitting room, and he was explaining the light, the way it came through the west-facing windows in the afternoon, the way the kitchen caught the morning, and he was right about all of it, exactly right, in the way of someone who knew the house from the inside rather than from the listing sheet. Afterward, when the couple had gone, he found me in the kitchen. You were watching, he said. Sorry. Don't be. He set his notebook on the table. Was I wrong about anything? No, you were right about the light. I know the house. I know you do. We looked at each other for a moment. The kitchen had a particular quality in the afternoon, the west light coming through, exactly as he'd said. And it occurred to me that he had been in this kitchen probably more recently than I had, in the years I'd been coming back twice a year for visits that barely scratched the surface of anything. My mother liked having you here, I said. Didn't she? It wasn't quite a question. She was lonely sometimes, he said carefully. Not unhappy, but the house was big for one person. I should have come more. You came as much as you could. That's generous. It's true, he said. You had a life to build. She understood that. I looked at the west light on the kitchen floor. My mother, alone in this kitchen on Tuesday afternoons, with Tom Whitfield coming by to fix the gutter or check the furnace or just, I now understood, to sit in the kitchen and talk, keeping the thread alive. both of them keeping it alive for me, who had let go of my end. "Thank you," I said, "for being here for her when I wasn't." He didn't say "you're welcome," which would have been gracious but slightly wrong. He said, "She made it easy. She was good company," which was exactly the right thing to say, which was Tom. There was a couple who came 3 times. They were in their 30s, 2 small children they'd left with someone, and the 3rd time they brought the children, which meant they were serious. And I watched them walk through my mother's kitchen with a toddler on a hip and felt the thing you feel when you understand that a place is about to belong to someone else and take on the shape of their life rather than the life it's been holding. Tom saw me watching. He didn't say anything, but he glanced over, and the glance said, "I know," which was the specific thing about Tom that had always undone me. Not the grand gesture, but the noticing, the small, accurate attention. The couple made an offer on a Thursday. It was good. I accepted it on Friday. Tom called when the acceptance went through. "That's it," he said. "Probably 6 weeks to close. Do you want to start on the contents or?" "Yes," I said. "I'll start this weekend." A pause. "I could help," he said, "if you want. I know the house, and I'm aware that's not a professional offer. You can say no." I thought about saying no. I thought about what saying no would mean and what it was protecting, and whether protection was what the situation required. "Saturday morning," I said. "Saturday morning." We spent 3 Saturdays going through my mother's house. Not every Saturday. I had things to manage remotely, work that didn't stop for grief and estate logistics, but 3 Saturdays, and they were unlike anything else in the 6 weeks. My mother had kept things, not in the way of someone who couldn't throw anything away, but in the way of someone who understood that objects hold time. In the hall closet, my school reports going back to 2nd grade, with her comments in the margins in pencil. Not grades, she had never cared much about grades, but things like, she argued with the teacher about this, she was right, and she memorized the whole poem, not just the stanza they asked for. In the spare room, a box of photographs I had never seen, of my mother before she was my mother, young and laughing in places I didn't recognize, with people whose names I would never know. In the kitchen, her recipe cards, in her handwriting, with notes in the margins about what to do differently next time. And on 2 of them, my grandmother's recipes, I recognized the handwriting. She had written simply, "Perfect. Don't change anything." Tom sat with me through all of it. He didn't treat it like a project to be completed. He moved at the pace I moved, which was sometimes fast and sometimes not at all. Sitting on the floor of the spare room with a photograph for 10 minutes, saying nothing, just being there while I was in it. He made lunch on the 2nd Saturday without asking, found things in the kitchen, assembled them into something simple, set it on the counter. And I didn't remark on it because it felt like the kind of thing you don't remark on, you just accept. "You do this a lot?" I said at lunch. "Help clients go through the house?" "Sometimes," he said. "Not always. Depends on the situation." "What makes you offer?" He thought about it. "When the house is more than a house," he said. "When I can tell it's not just about the square footage. This house is more than a house." "I know, that's why I offered." I looked at him across my mother's kitchen table. 8 years. A town he'd stayed in and built something in while I'd been building something somewhere else. And here he was, making lunch in my mother's kitchen on a Saturday in December because the house was more than a house and he knew it. On the 2nd Saturday, I found the box with his name on it. Actually, his name, written in my mother's handwriting on the side of a small cardboard box. Tom, photos, etc. Inside, photographs from school, from summers, from the years when he'd been in and out of our house as naturally as I had. Some things my mother had clearly been holding for him without either of us knowing. I showed him the box. He looked at it for a moment. Then he took it and sat down on the floor of the spare room and went through it quietly, and I sat across from him and went through another box, and we were in my mother's spare room on a Saturday afternoon in December, both of us going through the evidence of who we'd been, and it was, I don't have a better word for it. It was like being handed something back that you'd put down somewhere and stopped expecting to find. "There's one from the summer after junior year," he said, and held up a photograph. Me and Tom at 17, at the lake, both of us looking at something outside the frame. Neither of us looking at each other, but standing close enough that the distance between us was its own kind of statement. "I remember that day," I said. "Your mother took it. She took pictures of everything. She took pictures of the things she wanted to remember," he said. "I think there's a difference." I looked at the photograph. 17 and at the lake and not looking at each other and the distance between us saying everything we weren't saying. "Tom," I said. "Claire, I don't want to sell this house and drive back to the airport and let it be another 8 years." He looked at me for a moment. "I know," he said. "I'm saying it badly. You're saying it fine." "I left once because I didn't say the thing," I said. "I'm not doing that again." He was quiet for a moment, in the way he was quiet when he was deciding something he'd already decided and was just arriving at the words. "I've lived here for 8 years," he said. "I've built something here. My life is here. I'm not saying that to make it complicated. I'm saying it because it's true, and because whatever this is, I need you to know what it starts with." "I know what it starts with." "Do you?" "A house on Mercer Street," I said, "and 2 people who should have had this conversation 8 years ago." He almost smiled. "That's one way to put it." "Tom, yes. The conversation, the one we didn't have. I'd like to have it now, if you want to." He looked at me across the box of photographs in my mother's spare room, December light coming through the window, the house around us holding everything it had held for 30 years and about to hold something new. "Yes," he said, "I want to have it now." The house sold on a Wednesday in January. I was back in the city by then, managing the last of the paperwork remotely, the way Tom had said we could. He texted when it was done. "Sold. Keys handed over this morning." They seemed happy. I wrote back, "Good, thank you, for all of it." He replied, "All of what?" And I sat with that for a moment and wrote, "You know what." He sent back, "I do. You're welcome." And then, a minute later, "I'm coming to the city next month. Work thing. Are you free on the 14th? I looked at that message for a while, at the specific directness of it. Not, "Maybe we could," or "If you happen to be around," but just, "I'm coming. Are you free?" Tom always had been like that. The small, specific, unhurried thing that was more certain than the grand gesture because it was real. "Yes," I wrote. "I'm free on the 14th. Here is what I know now that I didn't know when I turned off the highway onto Route 9 in November. Selling a house is not an ending. I had thought it would be the last act of a life I'd grown up in and moved away from. The closing of a door that had been standing open for 30 years. I had gone back to Millhaven to close something. What I found was the thing I'd put down and stopped expecting to find. In a cardboard box, in a spare room, in a house on Mercer Street that was never just a house, but the place where 11 years of friendship and 6 months of something more and 8 years of not saying it had all been sitting quietly in the walls, waiting for me to come back and look properly. I want to say something about grief while I'm here, because I think it's part of this story, even though it's not the central thing. Grief does something to time. It collapses it and expands it simultaneously. The past comes very close, closer than it's been in years, and the future goes very quiet. And what's left is just the present, which is very specific and very immediate, and doesn't allow much room for the kind of careful distance that ordinary life provides. I was grieving my mother when I walked back into this. I didn't plan for that to make me braver, but it did. There is something about sitting in the house of someone you've lost, going through the evidence of their life that makes the small calculations you usually make, is this the right moment? Is this too soon? What will happen if? Seem very far away and not very important. My mother was gone. The house was going. Tom was standing in the kitchen making lunch on a Saturday, and the calculation of whether it was the right moment suddenly seemed like exactly the kind of thing my mother would have rolled her eyes at, gently, with love. She had kept his photographs for years. She had put his name on the envelope. She had been, I understood, doing the thing she had always done for me, which was to be smarter about what I needed than I was, and to arrange things accordingly, and to trust that I would eventually get there. My mother had left me the house. I used to think that was what she left me. Now I think she left me the reason to go back. The specific, practical, undeniable reason to get in the car and drive down Route 9 and ring the bell and see what was still there. She knew Tom would answer. She knew he'd take the listing. She knew because she was my mother and she had kept his photographs in a box and a list of my accomplishments on the fridge and 20 years of thread connecting two people who'd lost the handle on each other, that if she could just get both of us in the same kitchen, something would happen that she hadn't been able to make happen any other way. I think about that when I think about my mother. About the long game she was playing, so quietly, with such patience, for so many years. She would have liked to have been proven right in person. I think she knew she probably wouldn't be, and she found a way to be right anyway. That's the most like her thing she ever did. And it worked. She would have known it would work. She knew us both. And I think this is the thing I come back to when I think about all of it. I think she also knew that I knew. That somewhere underneath the job and the city and the 8 years of not calling, I had always known what Tom Whitfield was to me. I just needed to be brought back to the room where that was true. She brought me back to the room. The rest was always going to be up to us.